Hello everyone, this is Maximus McCullough, your host in the Beginner Web Development Series. And we're going to start off with a few questions this time that we got from our last post. So the first question is, how are you refreshing your browser? Okay, so whenever we make a change and we have the browser and we want to look at the change, you can either hit this little round button in Chrome. There's another thing called reload the page, but an easy way to do it is hit the F5 key on your keyboard, the F5. And whenever you hit that, it will automatically refresh your browser and reload that page, and you'll be able to see the changes that you're making on that particular page. Okay, so it's the F5 key on your keyboard, or you can hit this little round thing to refresh. So as we're making changes to the code and we need to see them, we can do it that way. Okay, next question. Can you show us another way to create an index.html file on the desktop? Yes. And this is probably easier than going to look for your notepad. Okay. So what you would want to do is you'll just go to your desktop, right click, and then you want to hit new document. Windows may be new file, Mac may be new file, or we're just going to call this empty document. And you'll notice that it's highlighted here. So we'll write index.html, just like that. So I wrote index.html, and then you click off of it, and you'll notice whenever I double click to bring it up, it brings up an empty document. So that is pretty easy to do. You know, you just create the index.html right on the home screen. But now, whenever you double click it, it's going to bring up your whatever your browser is there. Okay, and so you need to right click and then select open with, and then I'm using the gedit for Linux, and then of course you'll choose Notepad or um, TextMate, BBEdit on Mac, or whatever program that you're using to edit it. And we'll get into programs here probably within the next 3 or 4 lessons. You know, different programs that you can use to edit your files. All right, so let me go ahead and get to the next question. How can I change my default browser? Well, when you're on your desktop and you're looking at the HTML, if you right click and you select properties, okay, I believe this is the same for all operating systems, you'll see the open with, or it could be default program. Now, let's say that I wanted Firefox to be my default browser. I can just select as default, and now notice it becomes the default application. Okay, now this is the same thing with Windows and Mac as well. So you can right click and select your default application. The layout may be slightly different, but it's the exact same type of procedure. Okay, and then whenever you hit close, and now when I double click this, it'll bring up Firefox. Okay, so this is my Firefox browser. You notice at the top left hand corner, and that's how you can make that happen for yourself. All right, so let me switch it back to Chrome, which I like to use for my web development applications, and then I'll close that out. All right. Are you going to go over tables? And they're talking about HTML tables. And yes, we are going to go over tables. That may be in the next lesson, tables. But in this lesson, we're going to be talking about divs. Okay, div. So let's start with our bare bones HTML document. And if we go to our first lesson here, and we click on this little thing, open it up, we get our bare bones HTML document just like that. And let's open this up. Let me put this down, and I'll right click, open with, gedit, and I will paste in my bare bones HTML document. I'm going to go ahead and save it by hitting Control S on my keyboard, and then I'll move this to the side a little bit. I'll double click, and there's my bare bones. I'm ready to go. Okay. So let's give this a title in our head tag. Okay, title. Close out the title tag. And we'll say this is all about divs. D-I-V apostrophe S. Okay. And we'll save that. Once we save it, we hit F5 on our keyboard. See, get our all about divs. Dived. Okay, let's put an S there. All right. We'll refresh. There we go. Now if we drop down inside our body tag, let's start out putting in a div. Now, a div is like this. Just like any other tag, here is a div. All right. This is a div opening tag, and this is a div closing tag. Now, we use divs for positioning on a web page. Okay, so we want things in different positions, and we usually give them IDs. Okay, so if we go right in here, remember how we gave the image tag an ID, the iframe an ID? Well, we're going to give the div an ID of foo. All right, we're just going to use foo. And if we go inside that div and we start putting possibly our h1 tag, right, because we need to have that be the first thing on the page. You know, after the body tag, we start with a div and then put our h1 tag. And our h1 tag has to be what? What does our h1 tag have to be? Well, it has to be everything in our title tag. Okay, so we're going to copy that and we're going to paste that right in there. All right. Now let me go ahead and save this file, and we'll hit F5 on the keyboard and refresh our page. That's all about divs. If we look at our code, view our code source, we know we have a div ID of foo in there. Okay. Let's go to another div. Okay. div, and we'll give it an ID of boo. Okay. And we'll close out that div. Just like that there. And maybe inside here, we'll go ahead and put an h2 tag. Okay. More about divs. Okay. Now let's go in underneath of our, let's go ahead and save that, and we'll refresh it in our browser by hitting F5. And you see here's our H1, here's our H2. Okay. And if you you could actually see the code source. If you hit view code source, you can also hit Control U to view the code source in Chrome there. So you can see these are starting to populate, and you might start wondering, well, Max, why are you showing this? Why are you doing this? Let's do a couple more things, and then I'll show you why. Okay. Let's go ahead and put in a paragraph tag here, and let's talk about divs. Divs help us position things on our website. I should say web page. All right. And then let's go down here underneath the H2 and put another paragraph tag. Divs can be targeted with CSS and styled. All right. So we're going to be getting more into styles later, maybe within the next 2 lessons. But I'm going to put a little style tag in here, and it's going to show you the importance of these divs and how you can start styling. Now we're going to go up into our head tag, okay, inside our head tag, and we're going to make it a style tag, S-T-Y-L-E, okay, S-T-Y-L-E. We're going to go inside that tag, And here you're going to learn about a new syntax. This is CSS syntax, okay? Now, what we want to do is we want to target the first ID, okay, of foo. So whenever you see something led by ID, you want to use a pound sign, okay? So ID equals the pound sign. And then we're going to type in foo, just like that. And that means that we're targeting everything within this div tag right here, okay? And we're going to have an open and close curly bracket, just like that, all right? And we're going to go inside there. I'm going to tab it over. And we're going to give this some commands, all right? Let's say that we wanted the background color to be orange, okay? Just type in background color, and then ORANGE, just like that. All right. Now let's just go ahead and save that, just like that there. And let's hit F5 on our keyboard, refresh our page. Now you notice that, we have our H1 tag and we have a paragraph tag. They're both colored. Okay. Now if we go back into here, we can see that this is where the div starts. This is where the div ends. Okay. All right. You understand that now? Let's go ahead and do a background color for the boo div ID, and let's make it blue, shall we? So what we'll do is after the closing curly bracket up here, we're going to make a new line. We'll drop down a couple. It's not usually a good habit to make spaces, but whenever you're working on something and developing something, sometimes you'll have spaces in there. But you notice how I put the foo here. I came down to this line, I tabbed in, and I put my command, and then I have my filing, my curly bracket there. I did that for a reason, and you'll want to get into the habit of doing that because it's going to be easier for you to read. If you had this all on one line, it would work, but at the same time, it's going to be a little bit confusing, especially when you're first starting out. So let's go here and let's target the div ID of boo. Okay, open and close curly bracket. And let's go drop down a line, and we'll go up to line 9, hit tab on our keyboard, and we'll type background color. Okay, we'll make it blue. Okay, and we'll save that. We'll go to our web page and we'll hit F5 and refresh it. Okay, so now you notice that this one is blue and this one is orange. Okay, now there's a couple of different reasons why I'm showing you this. Number one, to change the background color, or to show you what all is enclosed in the divs. Like in foo, we have this opening foo tag and the closing foo div tag, and everything in between there is colored orange. Okay. Here's the opening div tag of boo, the closing div tag of boo, and everything in there is colored blue. But now, if we look at the web page, and I'll hit refresh again, you see there's a space here. Okay. There's a space here, there's a space up above, space below, so on. How did those get there? Well, every browser, whether it be Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer, has their own set of CSS styles. Remember at the outset that I said usually H1 through H6 tags go down? Remember when I said that at the very beginning? Well, that's because usually browsers have it set like that, but you can override these browser things. And if you right click on anything in your web page, like for instance, we'll right click on this H1 tag and hit inspect, you'll see that we have a little thing pop up. Now notice it says user agent style sheet right here. And this H1, it has a bunch of these CSS commands: display block, font size 2EM, so on and so forth on down, and then it has our closing style tag. Well, that's because that's what's automatically installed in the browser. Okay, this browser is the one that took control of that and sets the size on those H1 tags. It also sets the size on the P tag. So if we inspect the P tag, you can see that there is styles applied to it. Okay. Now notice this little margin after 1EM. Okay. That's where that space is coming from. All right. Now, this isn't a lesson about CSS, it's about divs, okay? Because divs can make your world a lot easier whenever you're styling, especially when somebody gives you a mock-up and says, I want my website to look like this, and you need to make it look like that, you're going to be using divs. Divs ID and div classes. So let's move on to another type of div, which is going to be called a div class. And here what we're going to do, because I want you guys to get used to this, is inside this H1 tag, you know how we did the div ID of foo? Okay, well, inside this H1 tag, we're going to put a class of two, TOO. All right, so we have that class of TOO, and it's all about divs. And what we'll do is we're going to go up here. And remember whenever I said when something equals an ID, if it's an ID equals, you want to use the pound sign. Well, whenever you use a class, okay, you're going to use a period, okay? So a pound sign equals ID, a period equals a class. And we're going to just type TOO. And then once again, open and close curly brackets. We're going to go inside here, and then we're going to tab over one, and let's change the color of that H1 tag. So COLOR, just to change the color. Then we put a colon, and then let's make it white, WHITE, and then our semicolon. All right, so that's the syntax of a CSS command, what you're targeting and what you want to do with it. Okay, and in between there we have the colon and the semicolon to end the statement. So let's go ahead and save that. And I'll hit F5 on the keyboard. And now you can see that we changed the color. Okay. Now, what if we wanted this to be, come over halfway across the page, and then we wanted this on the other half? All right, let me show you how to do that. If we go up to foo here, which is our orange div ID, we can make another command. We can make as many commands as we want. So we'll go width, colon, and let's say, let's go 49%. Okay. Now let's come down and make the other one 49% too. So I'm going to highlight all this. I'm going to drop down here, and I'm going to copy that. Okay, and this, if you can you imagine what this is going to do? You know what width did with the pictures? Okay, they shrunk them down. So we're using percentages instead of pixels, and that's what you want to get in the habit of doing whenever you're forming web pages. You want to use percentages. You don't want to use pixels. All right, let's go back to our browser. Hit F5. Now you can see that we're occupying half of the page. All right. Now we have to take into consideration this margin on the left. You see that? That's why I didn't do 50%. Okay. But what we want to do is on this one right up here, let me go ahead and tab in. We're going to add another command. We're going to say float left, just like that. All right. Now I'm going to save that. I'm going to hit refresh by my F5. Now you notice I floated this one left, but I didn't float this one left. So let's go ahead and float the blue div left by highlighting this, copy, come down here, and paste it in. Okay, let's save that. Okay, so now you notice that this one was floated left to this one, okay, and this is floated left to whatever's to the left of it, okay, which means it puts it to the side. So that is how divs occupy or style certain websites. You could start playing around. There's a lot. We're going to get into CSS later, but this particular one, I just needed to show you what the importance of divs were and how we use them. A div ID of foo will be targeted with a pound sign. All right. A class of 2 we target with a period. Okay. Now let me show you something else here. Whenever we get into divs, we can name them anything we want. We could actually give this div an ID of foo. We can also give it a class, and let's give it a class of goo, G-O-O. All right. So now we know that this div ID is occupied in this orange. So if we come up here and we go right after a curly bracket, we're going to target that class of goo, so it's period, G-O-O, open and close curly bracket. We're going to go in here and let's tab it over. Now let's give this something a little bit different. Let's type in color, okay, and we'll change the color to red. All right, now can you imagine what's going to happen? Let's go ahead and save this, hit F5 on our browser. Notice it changed the color of this, but it did not change the color of this. Why? That's because we targeted this one a little bit more exact. Okay, now don't worry about this too much because we're going to have a couple lessons on CSS and styling web pages. But I just wanted to get you into the habit of using those IDs and the classes because we need those whenever we're going to start styling web pages. Okay, we need them because of the fact that this is web standard. This is the way it's done. There's other ways to do it, and we're going to be talking about that too when we get into our JavaScript section. But I wanted you to get in the habit of using these IDs and classes on your elements here, okay? Because of the fact that it's going to make your life a lot easier as you go down the road, okay? Now, don't hesitate to ask me questions. Shoot me an email or a message or on the video or on the website. I prefer it on the website because in that way we can keep everything in one place. But here we go. We're going down our little pathway here. A few more steps. All right. This is Max with AIM Website Pro. I hope you enjoyed this lesson.